Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about adding and subtracting decimals. Alright, as we look at the KUD, you're going to see that once again, I want you to know what defines a decimal. In order to correctly add and subtract decimals, you really need to understand the concept of the decimal. And you need to know that once again, we're talking about a base 10 system. Okay, that means that each place value is 10 over, tenths, hundredths, thousands, so on and so forth. I want you to understand that sometimes the rules of addition and subtraction are not exactly the same when we work with decimals as they are when you work with a whole number. And this is similar to when we work with the rules of adding and subtracting with fractions. And you're going to be able to develop some sort of an algorithm, some sort of way for doing some computation, some adding and subtracting with decimals, and to help you solve problems where there's one or more operations on the decimals. All right, let's get to the notebook item. Notebook item, I believe we are now on notebook item number 5. Adding and subtracting decimals is just like adding and subtracting whole numbers, except now there's a decimal point. So there's really not a whole lot different. There's just a decimal point that you're going to need to keep track of. You need to remember that the decimal point in a whole number is to the right. So for example, the number 12, all numbers have a decimal point. The number 12 has a decimal point right here. We could write it as 12.0. We could write it as 12.000000. I could add on however many zeros I want. The number 45 has a decimal after the 5. Say it's 45 and 0 tenths, 45 and 0 hundredths, 45 and 0 thousandths, whatever you want it to say. Okay? So the steps to adding decimals are as follows. The first and most important thing you need to do is line up the decimal points. If you had, for instance, the number 12 and 1/10, and you had the number 4 and 5/10, no, let's say 56 hundredths. You're adding them together. You need to line the decimal points up. 12 and 1/10, 4 and 56 hundredths. Notice how the decimal points are lined up, the tenths are lined up, the ones are lined up. Okay, you can always add in your 0 for place value to help you with the adding. And that's what we have here. Use a place value 0 if necessary. With adding, it's not always as necessary. With subtracting, you really need to have those place value zeros there, or else sometimes you're going to make some common errors. You're going to add or subtract the numbers by starting just as you normally would on the right and working towards the left. So we're going to start here. We would get 6, 6, 6, 1. Okay? 16 and 66 hundredths. That way you can carry when you're adding or borrow when you're subtracting. You need to bring down the decimal point. Notice how I did here. You don't move it one way or the other. It just goes straight down where it was. Now, some thoughts to keep in mind. Just like in subtraction of whole numbers, you may need to borrow. And we'll do some practice problems that have some borrowing on them. You also should check your subtraction work with addition. Because remember, addition is the opposite of subtraction. Subtraction is the opposite of addition. And if you do that and you get the same answer, then you're doing it correctly. All right. Let's take a look at a couple of examples I have on here. You'll notice that I've written the examples this way, and I think one of the common problems is transferring that writing from this to this. So in my addition problem here, I have 23 and 9 hundredths plus 1 and 6 tenths. First thing that we need to do is line up the decimal points. I added in a placeholder 0 here, you can see. So my decimal points are the same. I got my 6 tenths lined up with my 0 tenths from here. I got the 9 hundredths. I didn't have anything there, so I put the placeholder 0 in. I line up my tens and my 1. And then I simply start on the right-hand side and work my way left. 9 plus 0 is 9. 0 plus 6 is 6. Bring my decimal point right down. 3 plus 1 is 4. 2, and there's nothing there, so we just bring the 2 down. We get an answer of 24 and 69 hundredths. All right, what about a subtraction problem? So in this particular problem, I have 6 and 3 tenths minus 5 and 2 hundredths. So I line up my decimals, 6 and 3 tenths, 5 and 2 hundredths. Decimals are lined up. You'll notice I have no 0 here. It's very, very important to put the 0 in with this particular subtraction problem. Otherwise, one of the more common errors that I see is this. Nothing minus 2 is 2. 3 minus nothing is that. 1 and 3/10. And obviously, you know nothing minus 2, you can't do it that way. But that is a common error that I do see. So you need to be aware of that. Put the 0 here. It should help you say that you cannot subtract 2 from 0, so you're going to need to borrow. So let me show you how the borrowing works on here. I'm going to borrow from this 3. I'm going to make it a 2. Then this obviously becomes 10 because I borrowed one whole one whole tenth, which is equal to 10 hundredths. So 10 minus 2 is 8. 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring my decimal place right down. 6 minus 5 is 1. And I'm left with an answer of 1 and 28 hundredths. And we can check to see if our answer is correct by adding it. So if we said 5 and 2 hundredths plus 1 and 28 hundredths, well, 2 plus 8 is 0. Carry the 1 over. 1 plus 3 is 3. Bring my decimal down. 5 plus 6 plus 1 is 6. I get 6 and 30 hundredths, which we could make 6 and 3/10. Okay, next page has some practice problems for you. Again, you can pause the video right now, or you can just come on and do them along with me while I do them. All right, let's get started on it. So we got 6 practice problems here. First one is addition. 45 and 9/10 plus 12 and 957 thousandths. So we're going to write it this way. 45 and 9/10. I want to line up my decimal. 12 and 957 hundredths. I'm going to add in my place value zeros just to make it more easier for me. 0 plus 7 is 7. 0 plus 5 is 5. 9 plus 9 is 18. So we're going to carry. Now, just because this decimal doesn't make it any difference, we carry over to up here. Bring my decimals down. 2 plus 5 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. 4 plus 5 is 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. So I end up with 58 and 857 thousandths. Here's a subtraction problem. 34 and 9/10 minus 12 and 87 hundredths. As always, first thing I want to do is add in this place value 0. This being a subtraction problem, I'm going to put the subtraction there. I cannot take 7 from 0, so I need to borrow. Makes this a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 8 minus 8 is 0. We need to make sure we have that 0 in, because it does tell us this is 3 hundredths. Put our place value, put our decimal place down. 4 minus 2 is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2, and I'm left with 22 and 3 hundredths. Okay, another adding one. 23 and 9/10 plus 1 and 9/10. All right. 9 plus 9 is 18. Carry the 1 again. Carry it through there. Bring your decimal down. 3 plus 1 is 5. Just bring the 2 down because there's nothing there. Becomes 2 and it becomes 25 and 8/10. All right, so this one looks a little different. I got 3 numbers. Do you think that's going to mess me up? Well, not if we line our decimals up. It shouldn't. 1 and 2/10. 56. Where do we put a decimal when we don't have one there? Always goes at the right of the number. 56, and I'm going to just put my place value 0 in to line it up with that one. And lastly, 7 and 4/10. So we can add these up. And we can say 2 plus 0 plus 4 is 6. Bring my decimals down. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 7 is 14. Carry 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Nothing else to add to that. I end up with 64 and 6/10. And that is a reasonable answer, because if you look at these, you'd say this is pretty close to between 7 and 8. This is between 1 and 2. So say 2 plus 7 is 9, plus 56 would be 65. Pretty close to what I got here. You can always check the reasonableness of your answers by just rounding. Okay, if I looked at this, this is going to be 13 plus 46. That's 59, pretty close to that. This is 35 minus 13, 22, pretty close to it. 24 plus 2, 26, pretty close. Okay, estimation is a very, very good skill to have. Using some rounding, using some estimation can really make you able to see whether or not your answer is right or not. And if you can see, whoa, if I'm way off, maybe I messed up something with my decimal point. Maybe I placed a number in the wrong place. I didn't line it up. Maybe I forgot to put my place value zeros in. Okay, so let's do this subtraction. 12 and 98 hundredths minus 3 and 46 hundredths. All right, we can subtract 8 minus 6 is 2. 9 minus 4 is 5. Bring the decimal down. You can't subtract 3 from 2, so you borrow from this, make it 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. Get 9 and 52 hundredths as your answer. And again, you could check that by adding these two together and seeing if you get this. And 13 minus 3 is about what you got there if you did some estimating. All right. 45 and 8/10 plus 3 and 9/1000. Okay, put my placeholder zeros in. 0 plus 9 is 9. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 0 is 8. Bring my decimal down. 5 plus 3 is 8. Bring my 4 down. I get 48 and 809,000. As I said, I think adding and subtracting is really, with decimals, is really a lot like adding and subtracting with whole numbers. You just really need to keep track of that decimal point. Put in your placeholder zeros if you don't have them there, because they're helpful, particularly for subtraction. And just make sure you line everything up correctly. If you do those things, it's really pretty simple. All right, I will see you tomorrow, and we will spend some time looking at some sample problems, some practice problems, and playing a game. Okay, bye guys.